Hi, welcome back to Tuesdays with Timeless. This is Dr. Stefanie Christian. May is Skin Cancer Awareness Month, so all of my videos this month have been about sunscreen. And we've gotten some very good questions, so I decided to devote today's video to answering some of the questions from the people who watch these videos. Here we go. Question number 1. I have oily skin. Is there a daily sunscreen that won't leave my face greasy? Absolutely. The first thing is look for an oil-free sunscreen. My personal favorite is Elta Clear. It's zinc-based, it's oil-free, it's light, it's tinted, and therefore we know it also covers the high-energy visible rays. And it's a great one for people with acne, people with sensitive skin, people with normal skin, and men who like no muss, no fuss. So, question number 2. Do you have a sunscreen for athletes that sweat a lot? Yes, actually, I have 2. So my one for runners is Elta Sport. It's water resistant for 80 minutes, and it's great for people who sweat a lot, but it's zinc and a chemical sunscreen, and therefore I do not recommend it for someone who's in the water. Therefore, I don't recommend it for swimmers or triathletes, and I don't recommend it for someone at the beach or at the pool. It's safe to use for the whole body and the face, and it's great for people who sweat a lot. My favorite for people who are swimmers and triathletes is Elta Pure, and I'm actually going to talk about this one in a number of contexts. This one is zinc and titanium, and it can be used also on the body and the face because it's mineral only. It's reef safe and therefore safe to use in a pool or in a big body of water. And it's also has water resistance for 80 minutes, and so it's great for people who sweat a lot, but also great for swimmers. Okay, third question. In your video on reef safe sunscreens, you said to stick with 100% mineral sunscreens, and this week you said we should all use tinted sunscreens. So what's your favorite tinted reef safe sunscreen? Well, this actually segues into one of the other questions, which was all of my makeup with SPF has chemical sunscreen, and you said that only lasts 2 hours. Is there a makeup that has mineral sunscreen? Well, yes. There are makeups that have mineral sunscreen, but remember we talked about this. You can't trust the SPF of makeup, because in order to determine the SPF of makeup, they have to apply 2 milligrams per centimeter squared. And that's about 7 times more makeup than most people put on of liquid foundation. And it's about 14 times more powdered foundation than most people put on. So I think you have several options. One, you can try to find a BB cream or a CC cream that is zinc based, or a better option is to try to find a sunscreen that will act as a foundation. And I have several recommendations for that. First, if you have flawless skin, and believe it or not, I actually do have a couple patients that have flawless skin, then I like Elta Elements. Elta Elements has a water resistance of 40 minutes. It is zinc based. It's 100% mineral based, and therefore it's reef safe. And it's pretty elegant, but it doesn't have a lot of coverage, so your skin has to be pretty clear. If you are human and don't have porcelain skin, but you only need sort of light to moderate coverage, then I recommend a Lastin's Hydra Tint. This actually brightens your skin. It's a lovely finish, and it's what I use now instead of foundation, and I've nowhere near porcelain skin. It is also 100% mineral, and it's tinted, and therefore, once again, it also gives you coverage against blue light, which is the high energy visible light. It's reef safe, and it's a beautiful coverage. It's hard to describe if you haven't actually seen it. If you grew up in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, and therefore have a lot of skin damage, and we haven't had an opportunity to really start working at that sun damage, so you need heavier coverage, then my recommendation is the Aven Compact SPF 50. This is applied with a sponge. It is also 100% mineral and tinted, and therefore it does give you protection against the high energy visible light. It is reef safe because it's 100% mineral. But because you apply it with a sponge, it gives you more coverage and the ability to spot treat as well. It's mattifying. It's a cream to powder, but despite being a cream to powder, it actually has 40 minutes of water resistance. Next question. Do you have a sunscreen you recommend for eyelids that doesn't run into the eyes? This is actually a really good question, because I think a lot of people don't put sunscreen on their eyes for fear that the sunscreen is going to run into their eyes and sting. And that happens because a lot of people have difficulty with their makeup liquefying and running into their eyes. So the first question you have to ask is, why do you have that issue with your eye makeup? Is it because you have oily eyelids and that's why your makeup cakes or runs? Or is it because you sweat a lot and that's why your makeup runs? So the answer to the first is you want to make sure that you have an oil-free sunscreen. And the answer to the second is that you want to have a water-resistant sunscreen. So my favorite oil-free sunscreens are Elta Clear, Elta Daily, Elta Elements, Elta Restore, Elta Sport, and Elastin Hydratint. There is a little bit of vitamin E in the Aven Compact, so it can't be called oil-free. However, it is mattifying. It's a cream to powder, so it works very well on the eyelids. In terms of water resistance, Elta Elements is 40 minutes water resistant. Elta Sport is 80 minutes water resistant. Elta Pure is 80 minutes water resistant. Elastin Hydratint is 40 minutes water resistant. And the Aven Compact is 40 minutes water resistant. So you do have a number of options, and it's really important to put sunscreen on the eyelids. The skin is thin to begin with. If you add the thinning that comes with sun damage to skin that's already thin, you're going to get thinning and crepiness and sagging. So you don't want to allow that sun damage to happen. So you want to make sure that you are putting sunscreen on that already thin skin. Okay, question number 6. How often should I reapply sunscreen during the day? Excellent question. If you are not using one of our sunscreens and you're using a chemical-only sunscreen, you have to reapply it every 2 hours. It's a chemical sunscreen, and for the first 30 minutes, it's setting up that chemical interaction, and then that chemical interaction burns out after 2 hours, and you have to reapply it, and you are not protected for the first 30 minutes. If you are using one of our sunscreens, they are zinc-based, and so they will last until you swim them off, sweat them off, or wash them off, or wipe them off. So look at the water resistance. How long are they water resistant? Now that means being in the water. That doesn't mean toweling off. So if you are in the water for 40 minutes and it's a 40-minute water resistance, then you need to come out and reapply. Several of ours, like Elta Pure, goes on very easily onto either dry or wet skin. It's another reason that it's a really good choice for triathletes. and swimmers. You don't have to dry all the way off before reapplying. A lot of sunscreens are difficult to apply to damp or wet skin, and Elta Pure goes on really smoothly to wet skin. So if you sweat it off and wipe with a towel or with your sleeve, you have to reapply it. If you wash your face, you have to reapply it because you just washed it off. And if you go swimming and you've used up your water resistant time, then you need to reapply it. If you went swimming and you didn't use up your water resistant time, but you came out and toweled off, then you toweled it off and now you have to reapply it. All right, question number 7. What sunscreen should I use on my 1-year-old, on my children? Those are 2 different questions. Really, really great questions. Absolutely everyone. The American Academy of Pediatrics, the American Academy of Dermatology, everyone recommends that you never expose an infant less than 6 months to the sun. But a 1-year-old, they're getting to be mobile, they want to be outside, they should have sunscreen on them. And so a really good choice for a 1-year-old is Elta Pure. It's zinc oxide, titanium dioxide, so it's 100% mineral. It is reef safe, so you can take them into the pool or into the lake, into your little pool in the backyard. It rubs in really nicely. This is one that doesn't leave an ashy color on darker skin. And it has an 80-minute water resistance. It also, because of that, it works really well for kids who are doing sweaty sports. So if your child is out playing some kind of summer or spring or fall sport and is sweating up a storm, it's got an 80-minute water resistant rating, and so it's a nice choice for children, and it can be used on the body or on the face. How do you feel about aerosol sunscreens? Okay, this is an interesting question because it actually has several parts. The first part is that it's actually recommended not to use aerosol sunscreens at the beach or at a pool because you don't end up spraying just the skin. The aerosol goes beyond the skin and ends up settling into the sand or into the cement and down into the groundwater and out to the nearest body of water. And most aerosols are not 100% mineral, and therefore they aren't reef safe. The second thing is never spray an aerosol at a face because there's a risk of inhaling it. So once you get to the face, spray into your hand and then rub into the face. Aerosols really need to be rubbed carefully into the skin. It's hard to see with most aerosols where you've sprayed, so you really need to rub very well afterwards in order to make sure that you've covered everything. That having been said, I'm a mom, and although my kids have grown up, now I'm a grandmother. And the key is to get sunscreen onto the body. And if you have a really fidgety toddler or you have a child that won't sit still for a lotion, then by all means use an aerosol and protect the skin. I like Elta Aero, A-E-R-O, because it sprays on white. And then when you rub it in, the white goes away. So you know where you've sprayed, and that helps. You still need to rub it in, but at least you see where you've sprayed. It's so easy with aerosol sunscreens to miss areas and then to end up with a spot that ends up getting a sunburn. So that's my piece about aerosols. I am looking forward to having more and more aerosols that are mineral only. If you have any other questions, please don't hesitate to ask. Meanwhile, have a great week, and I'll talk to you again next week. Thanks.